All right, this is for the Interactive Space Shuttle Challenger assignment. Discussing the three questions. The first question being, what could have NASA done differently in this situation for this mission? I think there's a lot of things that they could have done differently. What I was so surprised about that I didn't know before was that this was over a decade long process, that they had been hired all the way back as early as 1974, some of the people to be part of this project, which is so interesting to me simply just for the fact that it seemed so rushed towards the end, that they felt like so much pressure in order to accomplish or to launch the Challenger. It made it seem like it was only like maybe a 1 year or even 2 or 3 year project, that they felt like they needed to really send off the Challenger so early. And so I thought the first thing they could have done differently was to be able to like create a calendar that they were like, okay, this is what we want, this is our goal that we need to be able to meet, which I'm sure they did. But then once they found out there was competition, then I think that's when it really became forced in lots of ways, that they could have like been able to try to fix that. The other big issue that I think that they had was that they had management positions run by engineers, specifically with Joe Kilminister, I think is how you say his name. And I think that he was under pressure and was able, like, he doesn't have experience being a manager, and that was what he was asked to do. And it wasn't necessarily fair to him or anybody on the team, obviously, and everything didn't go as planned in lots of ways because he was making managing decisions. I think that was a big issue. The other thing that I would say that they could have done differently was taken, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name correctly, but Roger Boisjoli, his advice and redesign the rocket, which that would have just been a simple thing, and then also just push the date back. I think it was such a competition for them that they felt like they needed to be able to change that, I guess, and or not change it, sorry, and to be able just to launch, which I think was a massive issue. Now, question number 2, what should Roger done? I think he did pretty much everything he could have, and in the question he even talks about the biggest thing is that if he would have got fired, then he was probably not going to be able to have much support for his family, and he was too late in his career to really do anything different. The one thing I would say, and it doesn't really describe if he did this, but just to describe to them the worst case scenario, because the worst case did happen, right? Like, it blew up and everyone died. And if he would have just explained that and said, like, this is exactly what's going to happen, because they talked about the very specific things that were happening, like it was combusting, there were certain things that, like, the oil was catching on fire and it was too cold, right? They talked specifics, but they didn't really talk collectively of, like, if all these things go wrong, this is what's going to happen. And so if he hadn't said that, which it didn't say he did, that's what I would have said. Been like, look, people are going to die on national television, and it's going to be, right, like a huge knock on NASA in general and just on the general public. And so what do I see? Like, what's the relationship between being responsible, but also being, loyal to the management, but also being aware of the public? I would just say the most important thing is to be able to understand what the actual goal is. It seemed that, like, the goal was missed as far as, like, what they want even to do with the rocket. It just seemed like they just wanted everyone to see it go up in the air, and no one else really knew, right? And at the time, right, social media and all that kind of stuff, like, news was different back then, and so they just wanted to get it in the air. And so I would say that just understanding this is our goal and we want to achieve it for this purpose, and instead of it making it a competition with other countries and with other space programs, I would say that's the biggest thing. And also understanding that they just need to respect their elders, and hopefully those people, the management people, are able to make wise decisions and to be able to understand how to execute all those things.